less than 5% cut in the waiting lists from saying they were going to utilise the private sector and all the rest of it. They must be disappointed with those numbers, Duncan.
But the reason they're mentioning them is because they know these are important numbers for the electorate. These are one of the areas where Labour has been trusted on is the NHS, and so it's crucial that they manage to convince people that they are doing something for it, which the strikes, of course, make even more difficult. Because it has been a subject which has largely been ignored by politicians because they know it doesn't play well across the board. It's almost too divisive for anybody who's seeking to bring a majority, so they're trying not to mention it. But I wonder if Labour will maybe start to push that harder as they seek to shore up their core support.
I don't know what your feeling is, but I felt like they just didn't really have much of a position on it, and so they just avoided it because they didn't understand what their position was. Because they could have come in and said, "Look, we need to get back into the single market." For example, the customs union argument is pretty strong in terms of the logical one, right? In terms of what Rory Stewart would have done if he'd beaten Boris Johnson, in terms of all of that sort of thing. But it very quickly becomes obfuscated by passion rather than logic.
I think that's the problem, is the arguments, the simple arguments against it, regardless of the logic behind it. It's just easier to make those simple emotive arguments, and that's why I think they avoid it, because they know they can prove themselves right as many times as they want and it won't matter. And they said a lot about the fact that in the US there is this culture of failing. The penalties for failing are so much less than they are in the UK, where you can get disqualified from being a director of a company if your business doesn't work out, which essentially means that you can never work again in that industry. And I think there are lots of fundamental things about the British system which are unappealing, let's say, to entrepreneurs.